morning, Ursuline Academy, and welcome back to another edition of UA Today. I'm Ava Aftev, here with
Maggie Hoagland
to bring you today's news. Today you'll hear about some sweet potatoes, Ida B. Wells, the heartwarming story of Whitney Cuttrell, the saint of the day, and much more. Let's jump right in.
As some of you may know, next week is the National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. For those of you who did not know, we will explain everything you need to know right now. An eating disorder is a range of psychological disorders characterized by abnormal or disturbed eating habits. In the USA, up to 30 million people suffer from an eating disorder, such as anorexia, bulimia, or binge eating disorder. Worldwide, there are 70 million people who are suffering from this disorder. So next week, we will be dedicating the whole week to eating disorder awareness. The week will be called It's Time to Talk About It. On Monday, a video will be played on broadcast with information. On Tuesday, there will be selfies in the cafeteria. Thursday will be dessert your diets with treats distributed at lunch. And finally, on Friday, there will be yoga during activity. Speaking of other sweet treats, we'll talk about sweet potatoes.
National Cook a Sweet Potato Day is celebrated across the United States each year on February 22nd. The sweet potato is loved and eaten each day by millions of people across the nation. The sweet potato's roots trace back to Central and South America, where leftovers were found that date back to 8000 BC. Many vitamins are found in sweet potatoes, such as vitamin A, B6, and C, which are all good for vision, bone growth, immune system, and complexion. High in fiber and low in fat and calories. This root vegetable is a helpful alternative to snack foods that is prepared without added butter or brown sugar. Of course, even though we all know that brown sugar and butter make the potato especially tasty. Some interesting recipes to go home and try are sweet potato fries, sweet potato pecan pie, and sweet potato pineapple casserole.
Thanks, Ava, for telling us about that interesting National Day. Let's hear about something a little more historic. Today, our Black History Spotlight shines on Ida B. Wells. Ida Wells was born a slave on July 16, 1862. After the Emancipation Proclamation, her and her family were freed. However, they still faced intense discrimination and violence. At 16, both of Ida's parents and one of her siblings died of the yellow fever. She supported herself and her other siblings by getting a job as a school teacher. The quality that puts Ida in our spotlight today is her courage. Ida bought a first-class train ticket from Memphis to Nashville. The train crew made her move to the African-American car on the train. When she refused, they forcibly removed her. Ida then sued the train company and won the case, earning $500. After the day on the train, Ida decided to write about the injustice that African Americans experienced in the South. She used the pen name Lola to write for many Black newspapers.
As the support for her writing continued, she was able to purchase and own the Memphis Free Speech and Headlight. While being a journalist and writer, Ida was also a school teacher at the Black public school. She often critiqued the school and how unfair the segregation of the schools were. This eventually got her fired from teaching. In 1892, after 3 Black men were lynched, Ida traveled throughout the South to research more lynchings. She continuously wrote the stories of people who were lynched. White citizens didn't take kindly to her writings, and the office in Memphis was destroyed. She was sent death threats and ended up moving north to protect herself from harm. Ida is credited with creation in countless organizations, both for African Americans and women's rights. In 1909, Ida helped create one of the most influential groups in American history, the NAACP. In 1931, Ida B. Wells died in Chicago. Her heroism and courage inspires us to do great things. Thank you, Miss Wells. Now let's hear about what this brave mother did for her child.
A little bit over a week ago, a woman named Whitney Cuttrell dressed up as a man after her kindergarten son came home from school holding a flyer for Dads and Donuts. Because she happens to be a single mother, she asked her son if he would just like to have his grandfather to go with him to the event. He responded with, "No, because you are my mom and my dad." Whitney Cantrell stated that ever since she had become a single mom 3 years ago, she made a promise to herself, and that promise was to help her children live a normal life. Because of this promise, she has taught her son how to play catch, she has gone on trips with him, and she's even caught and played with bugs like a dad would with his son. Once the Dads and Donuts event came along, she had even painted on facial hair just for her son.
Now let's hear about how amazing February 22nd was throughout history. On this day in 1630, Native Americans introduced the Pilgrims to popcorn. In 1856, the first national meeting of the Republican Party. In 1876, Johns Hopkins University opens. In 1900, Hawaii becomes a U.S. territory. In 1928, Bert Hinkler is the first person to fly solo from England to Australia. In 1989, Stephen Hawking calls Star Wars a deliberate fraud. In 1997, the first cloned mammal is announced, Dolly the sheep. Those are some of the most interesting things that have happened on February 22nd throughout history. Now let's hear about what Ursuline girls like better, Sour Patch watermelons or Swedish fish.
Swedish fish or Sour Patch watermelon?
Sour Patch watermelon.
Sour Patch watermelon.
Sour Patch watermelon. Sour Patch watermelon.
Sour Patch watermelon.
Sour Patch watermelon.
Definitely Sour Patch watermelon.
Sour Patch watermelon.
Watermelon. Watermelon.
Sour Patch watermelon. Sour Patch watermelon.
Swedish fish.
Sour Patch watermelons. I think Swedish fish.
Today we celebrate the feast of St. Peter. St. Peter was known as the first pope and one of Jesus' 12 disciples, and is also listed first in the Gospels. Peter's name was originally Simon. Peter was called to be a disciple around the same time that James and John were called by Jesus. Most of us know the famous quote, "Upon this rock I shall build my church." This was said by Peter. Peter was a wise disciple that Jesus came to multiple times, and today we honor his feast day.
Today's weather is going to be a high of 75 with a low of 51. Today is also going to be very foggy, so remember to stay safe. Now that the air is warming up, let's hear about one more story to warm our hearts.
Last month, something beautiful happened between a child and her babysitter. Kirsten Miles is a 22-year-old babysitter for a young girl. Recently, Kirsten decided to make a courageous move by giving this little girl another chance at life by donating some of her liver. Kirsten was told that this was a very serious surgery, and if her child needed a transplant like this, she would not be able to donate to her own child. But all she had to say for herself was, "It's such a small sacrifice when you compare it to saving a life." This surgery took around 14 hours, and they are both recovering very well.
Thank goodness that they are doing well. Now let's hear about today's quote of the day. Today's quote of the day is by Jen Prosky. Love yourself. It is important to stay positive because beauty comes from the inside. Jen Prosky is a Canadian-American actress best known for portraying Becca Crane in Vampire Suck.
We'd like to say thank you to our team behind the scenes, Lily Summers, Chloe Weaver, Campbell Kennedy, Olivia Tallow, and Mrs. Lang. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of UA Today. I'm Maggie Hoagland.
And I'm Ava F. Tev,
reminding you to make the most of your day.